89 WLS is breaking news, comprehensive coverage, and revealing insight. Chicago's talk leader, 89 WLS.
.534, Awake with Jake, right here on 89 WLS. Massapequa Park, New York, Long Island, that's where it is. They have passed a new law on property upkeep. If you have an unkept lawn, you could eventually be hit with a $10,000 fine, even maybe go to jail. Yep. You're going to see this story around this weekend. There's a lot of foreclosed homes, bank-owned, and people are, that live next to them are upset, and they're going to... the town is going to start fining people. And if they have to do the work, they'll do the work, and they'll give the tab to the homeowner if you actually live there. And if you don't live there and it's a bank, the bank will put it on, they'll give it to the bank. Yeah, but they want things to look nice. Now, speaking of looking nice, when I drove down to Nashville week before last, when I was driving up through I-57, driving down, about halfway down, I saw people, they were doing the mowing the median. It runs between the lanes that go north and south. But coming back, I noticed the state hadn't mowed in a while. The grass in the middle was like all kind of brownish and tall, a couple feet tall. Then they had the green weeds along the side. It was very pretty. Now, would the state fine itself for not keeping the roadway up? And it went on that way for miles and miles and miles. Maybe down south, the IDOT districts down south don't have a lot of money. And they can't keep up with that stuff. I don't know. Hey, speaking of money, all right, here, this is going to blow your mind. You know how we're talking about Greece? Greece may go under. The money that Greece is under is only it's some billions, a couple $100 billion, which is a lot of money, but not really a lot of money when you talk about our $16 trillion we owe in debt. But we talk about all the pensions, and it's a lot of money, right? And we're all shocked and all that stuff. Did you know there was a secret report that was done by the J.P. Morgan Chase people last year? Do you know how much the unfunded pensions are for states and towns across the country? $3.9 trillion. And the reason that's a very important figure is if you read what people are telling you that's unfunded, it doesn't come close to that. The states and the different towns around the country are hiding the actual numbers. The actual unfunded pensions are $3.9 trillion. When you think of the U.S. government being $16 trillion in debt, the states and the towns, their money is like 25% of that. That's a lot of money. At some point, this is all going to collapse. It's just, you might as well head to Canada, get whatever money you have, convert it to Canadian money, and move to Canada. It's all going to collapse at some point. You have the different pension people saying, we want you to pay, a couple percent extra for your pension or your health, and people are, I don't want to do that. It doesn't really matter. They're not going to get it. If you have a government pension coming, I'm saying there's a good chance you're never going to see it. Hate to ruin your morning for you. Have some more coffee. $3.9 trillion. And very few people know about it. And now you know too. Have you seen that number lately? Anybody talking about that? No. No, that would be a big depression for people. If you got a public pension coming and you hear that, $3.9 trillion. Where's the money going to come from? It's just, this is like silly season. It really is. The president talking about, the police and fire and teachers and cutting and all that stuff. And somehow it gets translated to Mitt Romney is against that and hiring firefighters. There's a Latin phrase for when somebody says something and you take it to the absurd degree, extreme degree. That's where we are, it seems like, every day here now. You remember back in the 90s when you wanted to stop, the federal budget, say for school lunches, every year used to go up 8 and 9% over what it was the year before. Whether they actually needed the money or not, they always increased the budget 8 or 9%. So when the House wanted to cut the increase, not the actual budget, but just the increase, tone down the increase a bit, it came out to translated to the extreme. The House wanted to starve kids. So the other day, this whole thing with police, fire, and teachers, Joy Behar, who you see her on The View, I saw this quickly, a couple of bites of this. She was being interviewed, and she was talking about Mitt Romney, how Mitt Romney doesn't like firefighters. Because whatever. And then she said, well, I hope one of his houses burns down. Which is kind of a drastic thing to say. Hey, I hope his house burns down. And then she says he can call the Mormon fire department. I didn't know there was a Mormon fire department. Is there a Catholic fire department? Is there a Jewish fire department? I just thought we had firefighters. Where, man, is it the heat? What is it? People are just nuts. I hope one of his homes burns down and they have to call the Mormon fire department. And here's the thing. The president doesn't hire teachers. He doesn't hire policemen. He doesn't hire firefighters. The local governments do. Just nuts. I hope one of his homes burns down and they have to call the Mormon fire department. Okay. Rick in Rossville. Hey, Rick, you're on 89 WLS.
Hey, Jake. Sad news this week. Our good friend Sam Drucker died.
Drucker, why does that name ring a bell?
Why does it ring a bell? From Green Acres.
Okay, I'm thinking.
He was the postman, the clerk, and he was also on Petticoat Junction, played the same person.
Oh.
Train conductor, kind of.
With all the new TV shows that are out now, sometimes I have to just kind of purge my brain of some old stuff so I can have room for some new stuff.
With Eddie Albert.
The Eddie Albert I remember. Yes, Green Acres I remember, Drucker I don't.
He was, like I said, he was the clerk. He was probably the only other sane person on the show.
How old was he?
Aside from all the other characters.
How old was he?
Kind of bald-headed guy.
Oh, I can kind of think about him now.
And by the way, Jake, you're talking about all this pensions and all that. Yesterday, I went into Walmart. I bought a bag of dog food, and I bought some diapers, and I bought like 3 other items. It came out to $52, and then after taxes, which came out to almost $7, it came out to $6.58 tax on $52 purchase. Now, where is that money going to?
It goes to the government.
There was a tax 1 and there was a tax 2.
I'm guessing that if it's a food product, that's tax 1. That's at the low rate. Tax 2.
I didn't buy any food. I didn't buy any human consumption food.
What did you buy again? You bought dog food?
I bought dog food, diapers, and a phone card. And what else was there? Some Palmolive dish detergent.
One of those is at a different tax rate for some reason. It's like if you go to the store and you buy soda, that's at a higher tax rate.
I went and I was looking at their steaks. I'm not going to pay $17 for a steak. I refuse. For just one steak.
How big was the steak?
Probably about a quarter of a pound.
No. Had to be big. $17 for a quarter pound of meat? That's $68 a pound.
Jake, just for 4 hamburger patties that they have is almost $7 to $8.
Well, those are big patties.
Not after you cook them. It's more like White Castles.
Thank you, Rick. Bye.
See you later, Jake. Bye.
Oh, man. Yeah, things are expensive. Things are. Everything costs money. Everything costs money. You know, the whole deal, the teachers and the firefighters and the police, is that when there's budget cuts, for some reason, those are the people that always go first. The brain surgeons go, the heroic policemen go, the firefighters go. The crap stuff that I would consider, something you'd like to have, but you really don't have to have. It's like a flat screen TV. Would you like to have a 60-inch flat screen TV? Yeah. Do you need a 60-inch flat screen TV? No. People make choices every day, and that's what government does. They make choices, how they're going to spend the money. And if they don't have enough money, they have to decide what they're not going to buy. If you drive down, for example, Columbus. Columbus Drive downtown. And look at the trees. They have these nice little trees planted. They're like every 10, 15 feet. And around every tree is wrought iron fence. A couple feet tall. It's like 8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. That would be 8 feet square. Just about. Now think what that cost. Is it pretty? Yes. If you had unlimited money, would you like to have it? Sure, why not? But if you had to choose between a policeman and a lot of this wrought iron fence, what would you rather have? Because the wrought iron fence, if someone attacks you, the wrought iron fence isn't, unless you can pull it out of the ground and use it to hit your attacker, the wrought iron fence isn't going to help you. And that's what government has to decide. But for some reason, when you hear these stories, it's always the police, fire, and teacher they're getting rid of first. That's always the deal. We have to keep raising taxes because if not, we're gonna lose police, fire, and teachers. They never talk about the wrought iron fence and stuff like that. Anyway, 591-8900 is the phone number. 548. Back after this on 89 WLS.
89 WLS. This is Chicago's talk leader.
Do you believe in free speech or do you not?
I agree with so much of what you're saying. Both sides of the aisle are equally guilty.
The mean, nasty, grueling world.
I think it could happen here. We need to get in there and help them be careful.
Not going to make our world a better place.
This is Chicago's talk leader.
I could go on and on, but I won't.
89 WLS. The latest news from the nation and across the globe is just minutes away with ABC News. 89 WLS and WLSAM.com.
5:51, Awake with Jake. Jake Hartford right here, Saturday morning. 89 WLS. Get up out of bed. It's still cool outside. It's going to hit the mid-90s today and humid. You got that going for you. Carl in Chicago, welcome, sir. Welcome to the show.
Jake, how you doing?
I'm fine. Yourself?
Good. Happy Saturday.
Okay.
Yippee-ki.
If you got A blank or blank, or you fill in the blanks, I'll give you a second to fill them in there. You and Bruce Willis. You got them filled in?
Yeah, I do.
All right. You know, Carl, the Walenda successfully walked across Niagara Falls. There was only one problem. He had a harness, okay? So he violated the Walenda family tradition. He walked across on a big steel cable, and he had a harness. You know what? You could walk across Niagara Falls with a harness. As a matter of fact, you could walk out to the middle, sit down, and do your entire show if you had a harness and sit on the cable over Niagara Falls. And guess what? You have a harness.
Well,
if you slip and fall, you're okay. You know, nothing happens.
See, that's kind of when you go to the circus and they do the high wire deal, and
they got a net,
and they've got the net underneath. Yeah,
right. I mean, when Carl Walenda walked across and it was too windy, and he was old and it was too windy and he fell. That was the Walenda tradition. He didn't have a harness. He fell and he got killed. But that was a Walenda tradition. But what's the big deal? You could go out there. You could go out and do a polka halfway across the falls if you had a harness. And you know what? You'd be so confident. You'd say, well, I got a harness. I don't care. I'm going to do some good. You might even put some new moves that you never did with your polka. But the other thing is, now they passed a new law about marijuana.
Yes.
Well,
that's what they're proposing.
What they're going to do is give you a ticket if it's 15 grams or less. Okay, who's got the gram scale? Because I'm going to carry a gram scale in my car, and I'm going to drive around with a big brick of marijuana in my trunk, and I'm going to make sure that brick, I'm going to set the gram scale. I'm going to fix the gram scale, so it's going to be 14.9 grams instead of 15. And the cops are going to go, well, okay, geez. And I'll just say, you know what, this is the new diet marijuana. It's the new marijuana light.
Well, when I was listening to Roe and Roper yesterday, they had the alderman on who proposed this.
Yeah.
And Roe asked the question, what are 15 grams?
Yeah, what am 15 grams?
Now, it seemed like the answer yesterday was each little cigarette is a gram, which I find that hard to believe.
Each little cigarette. Have you ever seen the various sizes? Did you ever see it?
I'm just telling you what I heard.
Did you ever see the Cheech and Chong movies?
Yes.
Did you see the size of the spleefs that they had? They look like Cuban cigars. Well, but then the other thing is the price of oil. All right, I started investing in oil years ago. Okay, and I had an idea. I had a hunch. I went to the doctor and he couldn't fix it. But anyway, I had a hunch, and I started buying oil and accumulating more oil. And I go to the auto store to buy a quart of oil. A quart of 10W30 oil is $6.99. Now, when I started buying the quarts of oil, they were like 65 cents.
Yeah, I remember they used to be cheap.
Right. So I got my whole basement is loaded with 10W30, a couple of different popular brands, and I got it in my garage. I got it in the closets. I got it, and listen to this. You wouldn't believe in such a short period of time these cans of oil, and this is when they were cans, when they were metal cans, not the goofy cardboard deals. I mean, I got a 10-bagger. There were 10 times more than when I purchased them, and not only that, because the cans are made out of metal, I got a lot of money in scrap metal once you dump the oil out of the can, and I'm not letting these scrappers take my metal. I take it over to the scrap metal place myself.
And there's no expiration date on there, is there?
As far as what?
On the oil.
Well, there is. It's just a profit motive. Everything is going up in price. So
how could there be an expiration date on oil?
As far as what?
Well, use it by a certain date, like milk.
Oh, expiration.
Yes.
No, there's no expiration on oil.
Well, I asked you. You said yes.
No, I misunderstood you. I thought you said there's no explanation. There is no expiration date on oil. Oil virtually lasts. I mean, there's no shelf life for oil. It's just like Twinkies or Hostess cupcakes. There's no expiration date. It's like Campbell's soup. There's so much salt. There's no expiration date on the stuff. So I have an oil, basically I have an oil empire. I'm sitting on an oil empire. Now, as long as my house doesn't start on fire, it would be the biggest oil fire you ever saw.
That sounds like good retirement planning on your part, Carl.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But if you need any investment advice,
oil.
You got my number.
All right, thank you, Carl.
Have a good day.
Bye. Yeah, oil. See, oil is expensive. It's $6 a quart now. It used to be cheaper than that. Anyway, this hour's gone. We've got more to come. 2 more hours to go before Paul Bryan gets here with Drive Chicago. We'll continue to take your calls, 591-8900. The president is in town. He's in town for a few days. He's here for a wedding tonight. 200 police officers taken out of their normal assignments, and they've been assigned to the wedding. And guess what? They're not getting paid overtime. So they're out of their normal assignments, and the feds aren't reimbursing the city for that. How about that, huh? I'll tell you what the mayor of New York had to say about when the president came to town the other day. That and a whole lot more as we continue right here on Awake with Jake on 89 WS at 6, coming up to 6.
89.